Welcome to the Cinema Gold Show. I'm your host, Larry Leese. Today we're continuing our series, Psych, I Know You Know, with our review of Psych 3. This is Gus review. And we're also diving into the best films of 1994. First, we'd like to thank our sponsor, Poddex, for sponsoring this episode. Check them out today at poddex.com. Use the promo code Larry21 for 10% off your order. So let's begin with 10 the top movies of 1994. 1994 was a seminal year in the history of cinema, firstly because of the consistent quality of films produced, and secondly because of how long-lasting the names and titles have been across a bevy of genres. Indeed, 1994 saw the launch of superstar comedian Jim Carrey, who had three massive hits: Ace Ventura, Dumb and Dumber, and The Mask, all of which are still watched and enjoyed today. It gave us Quentin Tarantino, who launched into immediate auteur status with the release of Pulp Fiction. Also, thanks to the rise of independent cinema during this filmmaking renaissance, were films like that possible. There's also the Gen X time capsule reality bites and Clerks. Hollywood produced classics in the action canon like Leon the Professional, Speed, True Lies, and The Crow. What 1994 promised was Hollywood creating cinema for everyone, a year where there wasn't a boring film in the theater. You could watch a groundbreaking documentary, Hoop Dreams, or wait to see the quirky biopic from Tim Burton and Ed Wood. 1994 showed the promise of artistic integrity, high art, popcorn, fun, all colliding together. That's what made this year one to remember. So, starting off at number 10, Natural Born Killers. The early 90s belonged to Quentin Tarantino and Oliver Stone. Stone previously set the early part of the decade ablaze with his box office smash hit, an Oscar-winning epic on the JFK conspiracy, while Tarantino immediately became a brand name with Reservoir Dogs. So it seemed like the perfect alchemical combination when one of Quentin's scripts landed on Stone's lap. And of course, it was a psychedelic nightmare that satires the media quench for ratings over substance. Natural Born Killers gives us the serial killer couple of Woody Harrelson and Juliette Lewis as they shoot their way to American fame. Tarantino reportedly hates the movie, but it's an iconic film of the 90s with its unstable, over-the-top violence, boiling point performances, and spot-on critiques of media coverage of killers. Number 9, Dumb and Dumber. 1994 was undoubtedly the year of Jim Carrey. After spending a few years making his manic energy known to households around America in the sketch comedy show In Living Color, Carrey arrived on the scene in three massive films, one of them being Dumb and Dumber, a hilarious road trip with Jim perfectly matched against Jeff Daniels as the two traverse the open road, hoping to return a briefcase full of money. From driving a truck built like a dog to our pets' heads are falling off, Jim's goofball zaniness found its perfect vessel on the big screen. Number 8, Clerks. There's one independent filmmaking success story to tell from the 90s. Kevin Smith should be near the top of that list. With no backing from a major studio, he maxed out several of his credit cards to finance the script and shot the film in black and white with no one other than his friends. But Clerks somehow found its audience, a cult hit with a non-story that proceeds from slacker conversation to the next fueled by pot smoke and cigarettes. Smith laid the blueprint for conversational comedy in independent cinema, also birthing two iconic characters in Jay and Silent Bob. Kevin Smith built his cinematic universe before Marvel ever did. Number 7, Leon the Professional. Jean Reno became the ultimate anti-hero in the violent but strangely affectionate Manhattan Odyssey, Leon the Professional. With an incredibly mature debut from Natalie Portman as Matilda, who gets rescued from the gun for hire after her family gets massacred by a gang of dirty, drug-dealing cops, the film became canonical because of the beautiful dynamic between Reno and Portman as they lean on each other for moral support as their recluse, contained world around them begins to crumble at the hands of vengeful police officers. And in 1994, how could you forget, with number 6, The Lion King. Part of the creative renaissance happening at Disney in the 90s, where they seemed to be at the height of their hand-drawn animated powers. The Lion King became an instant hit, released to universal adoration, with the classic Shakespearean story of revenge and power vying for the throne. The plight and evolution of Simba appealed to everyone, with a soundtrack that wielded a soundtrack full of hits, including the carefree anthem Hakuna Matata. The Lion King is full of moments that helped it grow in popularity as years went on. And number 5, Forrest Gump. Life is like a box of chocolates. Did the year 1994 have any line reading that became an instant quotable like this? Forrest Gump was an instant classic because of the humble innocence of its main character, played with a charismatic earnestness that only Tom Hanks could bring. Taking us through the iron of American history during a cultural revolution with an open heart and good nature, made people fall in love with the movie. With some groundbreaking visual effects splicing at the time, Gump would become the most decorated film at a stacked Oscars and would go on to top the box office. Number 4, Chungking Express. The film that puts Wong Kar-wai on the international map and would launch him to household name status to art house and movie lovers everywhere. Chungking Express was a romantic elegy to the fleeting nature of love, creating a world where rituals felt monumental and everyday items became the price of heartbreak. Kar-wai crafted a love story between two depressed cops in Hong Kong who fall in love with two beautifully mysterious women. It's a story that continues to reinvigorate people's love for film as years go on because of Kar-wai's storytelling crafted the gorgeous, ethereal cinematography from the renowned Christopher Doyle. Number 3, Hoop Dreams. A definitive piece of documentary storytelling. Steve James had made a career of documenting his hometown Chicago and all of its social-political problems with a clear-eyed vision full of humanity. Hoop Dreams resonates because we spent 4 years with two tremendous kids who have only one thing in mind: basketball. But the film doesn't only tell the story of uninhibited ambition. It shows the corrupt cycle of basketball recruiting, how the system fails people of color who are on the brink of poverty, and how broken dreams cross generations and families. It's riveting work, a cross-cutting procedural with adrenaline rushes of great basketball games that will almost definitely bring a tear to your eye. Number 2, one of my favorite films of all time, Pulp Fiction. Tarantino became his brand of American filmmaking because of Pulp Fiction, a cultural phenomenon and still a rite of passage for anyone who fancies themselves a film lover. Pulp Fiction combines aesthetic, script, dialogue, and character to create an iconic ride through 90s California. Between Jules Winfield's Ezekiel speech, the adrenaline revival scene, and Travolta's dance moves, Pulp presented a world of filmmaking that many would try to replicate in the wake of his success, but no one can distill what is cool about cinema quite like the way Tarantino did with Pulp. And finally, number 1, Shawshank Redemption. The Shawshank Redemption is one of the great American films ever made and one of the finest adaptations of a Stephen King novel next to The Shining. Shawshank stands as a seminal piece of American cinema because of its transcendent storytelling in the confines of a prison, a seemingly hopeless place, and how it takes hope manifested in the eyes of one Andy Dufresne, with Morgan Freeman's godlike narration as Red driving the story. Shawshank creates beautiful moments of understanding and empathy amongst prisoners facing the worst of times. The film creates iconic moments like Andy playing classical music for the prisoners and the heartbreak of the Brooks was here realization. The film shows how some men become institutionalized beyond rehabilitation while others break free. And now on to our review of Psych 3, This Is Gus.
Telling the truth, I know, you know, they just don't have any proof. Erase the deception, learn how to bend your worst inhibitions, then psych you out in the end.
Fellow psychos and pineapple enthusiasts, our time has come. The third film for the Psych franchise has been released on Peacock, and I'm here to tell you if Psych 3, This Is Gus, lives up to our expectations. Spoiler, it does. For those like me who were saddened to see the franchise come to a close, these films are the perfect amount of content to keep us entertained. and hopefully they will have more in the years to come. But let's waste no time and dive in. Warning, this review may contain spoilers for Psych 3, This Is Gus, along with other episodes and films in the Psych franchise. I suggest enjoying them and coming back. You can find the entire series and the films streaming on Peacock. I will kick off this review of Psych 3 by calling myself a major psycho, so any new content to me is good content. But aside from that, the new film does rank higher for me than the others in a few of the episodes. After a few years of not having Psych content, this is a refreshing look at the franchise. The first thing that struck me was how seamless it falls into the rest of the franchise. It picks up ongoing plot lines like Gus and Celine's, apologies for saying her name wrong, I know I did, marriage and pregnancy, while also giving us a look into what the other main characters have been up to over the years. But Psych 3, This Is Gus, doesn't fall into the trap of being a middle movie that's only there to get the characters from point A to point B. Feels great on its own, while also tying back into the past stories. Speaking of tying back in, the callbacks to previous jokes and plots from the series hit the mark. We see the typical Psych jokes like Sean and Gus's fake names and antics, but with enough of a difference that it doesn't feel stale or overused. It feels like new laughs surrounded by a warm, nostalgic blanket. And we all love a warm, nostalgic blanket. Sean and Gus fall back into their roles smoothly. It feels just like old times. Of course, that applies to the rest of the cast as well. It's all about the nostalgic blanket I was talking about. Hill and Roday have always worked well together. The way they are able to play off each other is movie magic. Plus, did you expect Sean just to sit back and let his best friend almost marry someone they don't know? Of course he would. Because of this, we get to see some of the best antics and plan building the two have ever been able to come up with. The story of Psych 3, This Is Gus, is fantastic. The idea behind the film is that Gus is about to get married and have a kid, which would induce panic in all of us. But these aren't ordinary people we are talking about. This is Sean and Gus in their level of panic knows no bounds. Which of course leads us on an adventure of epic proportions mixed with mystery and suspense. Just like the good old days, and the story stands up well on its own. It is easy for those who haven't seen Psych to get caught up in what is happening. I also enjoyed that while the film focuses heavily on Gus's story, the man has one thing on his mind, and we love a man with dedication. It is so much more. We also get the chance to dive into Sean and Juliet's relationship, and even see into Lassiter, Karen Vick, Henry Spencer, and many other lives. Being able to still see what is going on with them is what gives me hope that this isn't the last time we will see another film from the Psych franchise. Brings up a lot of questions that we'd like to be answered. Actually, as a psycho, we demand it to be answered in the nicest way possible. Peacock, please help some friends out. If you have ever loved or still know Psych, then I suggest hopping over to Peacock and checking out Psych 3. If you haven't watched the other two films, this is still worth watching, but I highly suggest checking them out while you are there as well. More Sean and Gus, the better the folks. Now let us know in the comment section below, have you seen Psych 3, This Is Gus? What did you think of the movie? Did you think it was one of the better films of the series? And also let us know what your favorite movie in 1994 was. Just leave a comment in the comment section below. And if you want to support the show, you can buy us a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/cinemagold. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button, give us a thumbs up if you like the video, and we'll see you next time.